Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV2. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Scotland are looking for a new manager after the SFA board decides against offering Gordon Strachan a new deal. Brendan Rodgers is the manager of the month for September. Tommy Wright says Pedro Caixinha is paranoid. Yeah, just a few of the talking points we'll be discussing on the programme tonight. Alan Rough is with me, Peter Martin. Delighted that our Thursday night bookroom guest is Joe Miller. Lots to talk about. The main talking point, of course, is the SFA are now looking for a new Scotland manager. Your immediate reaction, Ruffy?
Yeah, and obviously not privy to discussions of what went on in the meetings. A wee bit disappointed. I thought Gordon was taking us somewhere, obviously not at finals, but I think the team was playing better. I think all the players were wanting to play for him. Everything seemed positive. Yeah, there was a disappointment in not qualifying in the last two rounds competitions, but I think Gordon was probably, I know they're saying that they're the ones who have said we don't longer want you. I would think Gordon would have had a lot of input and what was going to happen. You know, obviously they probably went along. I don't know if he was at the meeting. Was he at the meeting? We'll have a telephone call or whatever, but I would like to think he was kept in the loop. I just think that two campaigns, done my bit. You know, I've done as best as I can with the players that are available, and he's just decided to move on.
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that he would have had a face-to-face chat with Stuart Regan about the way ahead. Here's what the SFA Chief Executive had to say about the decision by the board not to continue with Gordon Strachan. On behalf of the board, I would like to thank Gordon for his excellent service to the national team. I know how disappointed he was that we couldn't secure a playoff place, but to come so close was a tribute to the belief he instilled in his squad. After almost 5 years, the board felt it was time for a new direction to prepare for the UEFA Euro 2020 qualifying campaign and also the forthcoming UEFA Nations League. We are grateful to both Gordon and Mark for their efforts and wish them the best of luck in the future. So there's the prepared statement. As far as Gordon Strachan is concerned, two campaigns he tried to get us to a major championships. The wait goes on for us. We haven't qualified since 1998. This is what Gordon Strachan had to say about his time in charge. I said on my first day as Scotland manager that it was the proudest moment of my career and that I wanted to put a smile back on the nation's face again. I share the profound disappointment at missing out on the playoffs, especially having worked so hard to fight our way back into contention. The players should receive immense credit for that resilience in coming back from a difficult start, and I would like to thank each and every player who has come in to represent their country. Together we have shared some really magical moments, and those memories will live with me forever. Of course, what made those moments special was the unwavering support of our fans through highs and lows. You have stayed with the team, and my biggest regret is not being able to provide the finals tournament you deserve. I would like to thank the board, the backroom staff and everyone at the Scottish FA for the help and support they have given me as national coach. It has been a real privilege. I think, to be fair, Gordon Strachan's probably looked at it himself as well. As Ruffy mentioned, Joe probably had a heart-to-heart with him on the fact that where the failings were. I wonder if the ultimate decision was with the board or whether Gordon had intimated, I think it's time that I step down. That's probably something that will emerge over the next couple of days.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think you've just got to reflect on his time there. You know, he'll probably see it as that he's maybe failed and what he's tried to achieve there, and if somebody else could come in and do a better job, then he's stepping aside. But you know, going to what you said there, he looked as if he was prepared for it. But I think I think Scotland had kind of turned a corner there. The players definitely enjoyed playing for him. I think that the play was better, and I think he's been unfortunate the way Scottish football over the past, say, 5-10 years has been on a lull. So, you know, he took over at a difficult period, and I think he did well up to a certain point, and he cast the net far and wide, which he's got to be, you know, applauded on. So, you know, it's difficult to judge him, you know, overall. because you would have liked to have seen him get into a major competition, you know, but I think he did a good enough job to see another campaign in.
Has he made us better?
I think so. I think the standard of Scottish football's got better. You know, as I said to you, I think he did extremely well casting the net, searching up and down the country for players. I thought he did an excellent job of that, you know, and giving every player an opportunity to play for their country. And when they went along there to the Scotland setup, you know, he sort of transferred that club mentality into this national setup, and they were enjoying their training and being involved in the Scotland setup, which is, you know, always a big plus. But you know, I'd like to see him stay another campaign.
Yeah, I think the good thing about it, it's happened very quickly, because we know what happens when these things drag on. You know, people start having their say, and sometimes somebody can be run out of town. You know, it's not happened that way. And although there are some people out there who have been thrown in their tuppence worth, they've probably been waiting to throw their tuppence worth in. So I'm happy that it's a joint decision, and I think Gordon can walk away with his head held high. I think the players loved working for him. Can't get away from the disappointment of not qualifying, but I think we're playing a different style of football. He's brought that the mentality of the players to play a certain style. It was good to watch. You saw the reaction of the supporters after the Slovakian game. After the game, I haven't seen scenes like that for a long time. The supporters were all right behind the team. So it's good that he's not been run out of town. I think that was the most important thing for me. I think he's been a wonderful servant for Scotland as a player and obviously as a manager. And unfortunately in football, things don't always work out the way that you want it to. But no, I think he can walk away feeling good.
Yeah, I think picking up on what you said, Joe, I mean, the players really were right behind him to a man. I mean, they had a lot of respect for him. And of course, he was one of those managers. He is a player's manager. Always keeps any problems in-house and, of course, defends them to the hilt. Gordon had a captain that decided to come out of retirement to try and help this campaign. I'm talking, of course, about Celtic captain Scott Brown, and he released a statement on his Instagram saying, sad day. We all had faith in Gordon and believed in making the Euros. 14 points out of 18 in 2017. Momentum was on our side, and I think that will be reflected in the next couple of days from a number of players who played under him. Well, I think when I look back, just before we start to look towards who they go for now, I think Gordon himself will probably analyse some of the things that he felt didn't go his way. I mean, Georgia in the last campaign is almost certainly a result. The 2-2 against Poland, you know, we were at that game as well, Ruffy. Lithuania and, of course, Slovenia. I think that's 4 games where he'll look back, Joe, and think, you know, maybe I made mistakes in certain ways, or, you know, the way the team played, or maybe team selection. Some have suggested Griffiths should have been in from the start.
I think he was also unfortunate with injuries. If you just look back at the game the other night there, you could see, you know, in the heart of the team, Scott Brown was missed. I think, you know, quite a few players were missed, and you know, going for the weekend's match, you know, there was a change in the setup, there was a change in the team. Everything just kind of hinged on, you know, the way we were playing. I thought they were maybe bullied a wee bit, and I think that's where the comments of, you know, being, you know, with the height and all this comes into play. But I think, you know, overall you're needing hard players and a strong player like Scott Brown. I mean, he really lifted the team when he was playing, and Armstrong as well is another miss.
Yeah.
So he was unlucky, I would say, in the last game there, and that could have changed everything. We probably wouldn't be sitting here just now talking about it.
Yeah, I'll be blunt with you and say my feeling on Gordon Strachan's failure is quite simply down to 2 points as far as I can see in both campaigns, Ruffy. He was done in with no centre halves. You can speculate on 1,000,001 things, but 2 centre halves killed his chances of qualifying for any of the tournaments, because we didn't have any. And no matter how many times he tried, we actually went through the first campaign with 2 centre halves who couldn't defend, Ruffy.
Yeah, we two centre halves probably couldn't defend, but we still were in every game that we played. And you're right. And I said to you at the time when we were at the Scotland-England game, we were standing touchline when that Harry Kane goal went in, I said that goal is going to come back and bite us. And that's what happened. That was 2 points. That goal, if we had prevented that, we were in the World Cup final.
Grant Hanley can't defend against Lithuania.
Well, that's what I'm going to say.
I mean, it's a 1-2 and they score.
Yeah, but you look at the games, and you're right in what you're saying about balls into the middle. Now, you're looking at the England game, you're looking at the Slovakia game over in Slovakia, you're looking at the Slovenia game, and that's like 6 goals.
Yeah.
You know, that if you had a big centre-half who just said, right, I'm going to go and attack this ball, and it never happened. But for me, it was the Harry Kane goal in the last minute of the game. Armstrong goes to the left instead of going to the right, and you're in the World Cup final.
So you agree with me?
Yeah.
You can give us your thoughts as well. In the end, he agrees with me. Who's going to be the next Scotland manager? We'll talk about that next. Willie Pettigrew, what a fantastic striker he was for Motherwell. Really quick, and boy, could he finish, Ruffy.
Yeah, and he had a good partner as well, wee boy Bobby Graham.
Yeah, he used to play for Liverpool.
Two of them worked well together, and you know, I think Willie had a very high scoring ratio at most of the clubs he played at.
Yep, absolutely. Great player, and we now look towards Scotland once more with a new manager in mind, because the SFA are going to start their search now. Gordon Strachan has left the position now. The SFA board decided not to offer him a new deal. They're looking for a fresh impetus, is how Stuart Regan has put forward their decision to look for a new man. So, the bookies, 11-5 David Moyes, 9-4 Malky Mackay. You can get Derek McInnes at 7-1, Joe. You can get Paul Lambert at 12-1, Alex McLeish at 12-1, and then we start going into a middle section of people that I don't think have got a cat's chance in hell of getting the job. I'll tell you them, you might as well. Sam Allardyce, Mark McGee, Alan Stubbs, Steve Clark, Irvin. Now, I can't remember his name, Ruffy.
The Irvin was being manager and coach. Oh, he's been a coach or a number 2 down.
Yes, Alan Irvin, yeah.
Alan Irvin.
And also, which is dreadful that I've forgotten his name, Walter Smith, Harry Redknapp, Billy Davis, and then we've got Ali McCoy, Graham Souness and Sir Alex Ferguson. I think you're beyond 500-1, which is why they haven't quoted you. Joe's 2,000-1, just obviously because he's been out of the game for a while. Joe, who gets your vote in that collection? Is there one that gets your vote, or is there somebody that we haven't thought about?
I think there's somebody that I've not thought about.
Is it a Gus Hiddink?
I think they might go down the foreign route again.
Yeah.
Unless they go for a really young sort of manager, a rookie type manager.
Can you see that, Joe?
I can. You've seen other countries doing it, who have had international players coming in pretty early. It wouldn't be a bad thing, So, but who's going to step up to the plate and do that? You get Michael O'Neill, who did very well with the Northern Ireland squad, and he's transferred in. He's not had and been a success at many major clubs.
Yeah.
But he stepped into international football and done very well.
Alex McLeish has mentioned, Ruffy, that he would obviously be open to chatting about it. He's keen to get back involved in football again. He made us difficult to beat at times, but failed ultimately. Other than that, I read about the Gus Hiddink this morning, and I thought, that's going to cost a pretty penny if they're going to go down that route. I'm not sure I agree with Joe on anybody who comes in as a rookie who is just catapulted into international management. I think Paul Lambert would probably be viewed as a kind of a rookie. He's a good jobs at club level, but is he Is he at that level where you're going to thrust him into international management?
I think it's good for a start. Alec McLeish has said he's interested. You know, I think managers should put their name forward for a Scotland job, and because a lot of them will think they still can get a club team. And I think Paul Lambert comes into that category. I think Paul would still like to be associated with a team day to day. Would Davy Moyes have had enough day to day? You know, and he just looks as if he's at a stage of his career where this might be a good move. You know. But again, we need to know, do they want to go into club football or do they want to go into international football?
Can I ask you two guys to analyse the point here? And this is where you've got to get into the meat and bones of it. You know, you've got to look at somebody's record and think, are we looking at the name based on maybe something that they've done a long time ago? Or, you know, and are they worthy of being able to make an impact? I mean, with all due respect, we've been in David Moyes' company. David Moyes has had a nightmare at Manchester United. Real Sociedad didn't work out, and Sunderland. Sunderland, I think, is you know one of those ones that anybody, the best manager in the world, could fail there, because I just think that club's got a lot of.
But could you not throw that at the top 4 candidates that you've shouted out there at club level?
Yeah, listen. That is the point. I mean, I think the previous manager had a good track record. I mean, if you looked at Gordon Strachan's CV, you were thinking to yourself, "Yep, he's been around. He knows how to deal with the highs and the lows. Trying to keep a team in the top flight in England, getting a team to the FA Cup final in Southampton, winning the title with Celtic. He's been." Around the block, and he's had those experiences. Plus, of course, he's been a player of the highest calibre. You know, you could argue the point that Paul Lambert's had good success as well with Wycombe and Norwich. You know,
I think the manager, or whoever's going to step in it, is going to see the potential here. I say, because I think the way Scotland were, you know, finishing the campaign very strongly. You know, the nucleus, the setup. There's a lot of players coming for the Celtic side who are playing fantastically well. So they've got a good crop of players there. They still need to build, well, we're talking about centre-half, so you're needing somebody to come in and recognise the whole situation, who's playing well, try to recognise where we can work and try to get a centre-half or 2 centre-halves, and recognise the upward curve that, you know, Gordon was taking us on.
Yeah. Do you know, out of all of them, if I was going to choose somebody out of all of the managers there, that let's just say they don't have the money for a Gus Hiddink. And remember, by the way, if they go for a foreign coach of stature, and if they've got the money, which I do not believe they'll go down that road, if they went down that way, they'd need to say to them, as I think Graham Souness wanted as well, they'd need to buy into their ethos. They'd need to say, right, you've got the power, you do what you want. I'm not so sure they're at that point, the SFA. So I don't see the foreign coach unless they come out of left field and say we're going to pay big bucks for someone. So if it was from that clutch of players there, Ruffy, I'd pick Paul Lambert, and I'll tell you why. Because I think he's played at the top level. I think he's had experiences in English football. And I think, he's got good coaching technique. He's had the German influence with him as well. I am actually struggling to think of someone who is going to make an impact without 2 centre-halves.
Yeah, I don't think any of the top candidates there are bad ones, and none of them is any better than the other. I always felt when I played club football, and I had my manager, and then I went into international football, and it's somebody who walks into the dressing room and you go, you know, he's different from the manager I've got, but he's got something.
Yeah.
And
can I ask you something? Who was that man?
Well, obviously Jock Stein.
Yeah.
He came into the dressing room, you know, you were in awe of him. But I just think Davy Moyes has got something. There's something about him, you know, that I think the players would play. I'm not saying they wouldn't play for anybody else, but I think they would respect him coming in there where he's been.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you've touched on where he hasn't had success for whatever reason, but I just think Davy, for me, fits the bill.
I don't think he's ready. I think he's, and I don't mean he's not ready, for what he's got on his CV and what he could offer. I still think David Moyes is at a point in his life, Joe, where he thinks there's a big club job there for me. I'm not ready for international management at that level with Scotland, who are currently about 30th ranked in the FIFA rankings. That's viewed as a stepping stone, or it's viewed as it's a step down, you know, in some cases.
Don't you think the Scotland job should be a stepping stone?
I think so.
Well, I think it is. I think it is a stepping stone. But I think David Moyes views Scotland as a step down from getting a big club job.
I think it would be a pathway to another big job. I mean, if he takes us to a campaign, then his CV's up, and he's got a nucleus of good. He's still relatively a young manager.
Yeah,
and I think he could possibly do well.
I do think he's got the qualities. I'm maybe clouded by the fact that I don't think his ambitions right now are for Scotland. That's my only. That's the only thing that would rule it out.
That's why I'm saying it'd be interesting to hear the guys that we're talking about. You know, if he comes out and says, "Love to be Scotland manager at some stage in my career, but not now. I want to go into club football," because I think. Well, I'm only speaking not for him, but I'm thinking where he's been and how it's not worked out. Maybe he's at a stage now where maybe I don't want club football. Look what's happened to me here and look what happened to me there.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I want a job that, you know, I can really get right into, and I've got 2 or 3 years and get us to a final. And as Joe said, if he got us to the finals, his CV would go up, and then you can decide whether you want to be international or club football.
Is he your choice?
Yeah, I would go for David Moyes.
David Moyes. Joe?
If it is that just now, it probably would be David Moyes, but I'm actually pretty sorry Gordon's left, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think we could have done well for another campaign.
Yeah, but it's an interesting one, and the arguments will rage on. You can give us your view at Peter and Ruffy and also facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy as well. Give us your comments on it. Try and keep it professional and not personal. There are some people who obviously just don't like what Gordon had to offer either on or off the pitch. But who do you think can take Scotland forward? Who's a better option for you as the next Scotland manager? We'll turn our attention after the break to domestic issues. We're going to hear from the manager of the month, which is, of course, Brendan Rodgers, the Celtic boss. We'll hear from him, and we'll also hear from Pedro Caixinha ahead of St Johnstone against Rangers. It's all coming up in the next couple of minutes. John Aldridge, top scorer for Liverpool. He's one of those players that just seemed to move in seamlessly after Ian Rush had left Liverpool and scored the goals.
Yep, and I was just saying to Joe there, I just caught that photograph of John Aldridge, and Tommy Burns was behind him. So I'm just wondering what that game was. It was the Hillsborough, probably the game as soon as Liverpool decided to play. The first game they played after Hillsborough was against Celtic at Celtic Park, Joe. Did you play in that?
I played in that game, yeah.
Yeah. Talking of Celtic, the manager of the month for September is Brendan Rodgers. 3 wins and that draw against Hibernian secured his nomination. This is what the manager had to make of the award.
It was a very busy month. I thought the players were outstanding in their focus and everything they put into all the games that they had. But obviously, of course, the league games and the one, we had a real tough one at the end of it all against Hibs, and we still came through that and managed to get a point. So yeah, I accept the award on behalf of everyone, the staff and the players and everyone at the club.
And they still remain unbeaten, Joe.
Yep, and they could do it again. I think the way they're playing, they're getting better and better. But you know, I think with the schedule of football that's coming up, they'll need to spread the squad about. You know, you've still got players in international. You've got Thomas Rodgick away this week, still on international duty. So he'll need to spread the squad. But he's got them all playing fantastically well. and I think domestically he can afford to do that.
Yeah, I think a number of Celtic fans will be wondering about the injuries to Scott Brown and Stuart Armstrong. Well, they're back training, and I think Brendan Rodgers mentioned that the Dundee game is just probably a little too early for them. He's got them ready, hopefully, for Bayern Munich in his mind. And of course, another injury worry is Jozo Simonovic.
You know, he like Scott Brown and Stuart Armstrong will very unlikely be involved tomorrow, or for Saturday, sorry. But all three should train and hopefully be ready for Bayern Munich. So yeah, it was never an injury that was going to keep him out for a sustained period of time. But he just felt something, and he stayed behind to get treatment. And like I say, probably will miss Saturday's game, but hopefully for Bayern Munich, okay.
Celtic away to Bayern Munich. It's back-to-back games against Bayern Munich. I've had, all sorts of pundits talking about it. Some people suggesting that Celtic could pull off something special, Joe, because Bayern Munich were looking for a new manager at the time, because Carlo Ancelotti was sacked after that drubbing at the hands of Paris Saint-Germain. But I just don't see it. I mean, I think over the two legs, if he gets anything out of it, they'll be doing cartwheels.
I think so, but they've just got to make themselves difficult to beat. It's a learning curve for all the players. I mean, over the past few seasons, you've got the experience of Brown and guys like us all playing against Barcelona, and the experience that they've picked up over the past few seasons. But they're coming up against different opposition this time, and top players. It's going to be a difficult task, but on the night you never know how Celtic can play. Sometimes when that crowd gets behind you, they can pull out a performance. Yeah, that'll be the home game at the end of October. Of course, at least Arjen Robben won't be tired, Ruffy, because he's retired from international football as well. I don't think Ribery's going to see this game. I think he is struggling. But as far as the quality that they have at their disposal, I mean, Lewandowski at the best of times. That's why I think Brendan will save Simonovic for the game, because he needs his back line as settled as he possibly can for these two games.
Yeah, he certainly does, and obviously the priority at this moment in time is the Champions League games. That's where the supporters want to see their team performing. I think Brendan knows that he can afford to go into a league game here and maybe drop a couple of points and still win the league. So I think he'll be focused on the two Bayern games that are coming up. And I'm like Joe as well. I think Bayern, you're right, they've got quality players in there, but in their own league they've been dropping points against Hoffenheim and teams like that. So I mean, that gives you a judge that on your day, if you play to the highest level, you've always got a chance at home. You've always, but it's got to be again one of these special nights, one of these Champions League nights that somebody does something special. But the German teams are always difficult to beat, but I think it's a home game you're focused on.
Even if they do get a result, you're talking about them still being in Europe. I think that's their aim after Christmas. I think if they get something at Celtic Park, then that's a step in the right direction. I think they've learned their lesson from the PSG game. That was a real turnover, but I don't think you will ever see that again. I think they've learned their lesson from that.
Yep, okay. We're going to switch our attention from Celtic to Rangers. They're in action tomorrow night at McDermott Park, St Johnstone against Rangers. And yet again, Pedro Caixinha has just become bogged down with some comments he's made in the press conference ahead of the match. This is what he was talking about ahead of the game, about this mole with regards to the game last season, when he felt as if someone had given St Johnstone the inside track on his team.
First of all, I expect them not to train after we train tomorrow. Why I'm telling you that? Because I know that on the last season, and it was the last match, we train at 10, they train at 12, knowing already our first 11. So that's what I expect for 2 days from now.
I mean, I'm absolutely cringing. You may be laughing. I'm cringing, Ruffy, because Tommy Wright says he's now paranoid, and he said, you know, I completely and utterly understand what fake news is about, because this one is just. I think this is just a nonsense.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, he's paranoid about people from his own place. You know, if he's telling that they trained and then they knew the team, you know, it's somebody within Ibrox that's leaking that news. So that's his biggest problem, that there's somebody in there who feels as if they need to feed, if it is true, if they are feeding St Johnstone with facts like that. So I think that's where he's got to get his head round, you know, sort out his own place in order before he starts talking about other teams.
Yeah, I mean, this is James Bond stuff. This is a spy in the camp, Joe. Who would go against it? I don't know of another Rangers manager that I can think of that would become embroiled in that sort of nonsense. You know, at the end of the day, your job is simple. Go out there, get the best out of your team, go and win games. Who cares if somebody knows or second guesses your lineup?
That's the thing with the lineup. Has his team changed that much? That's the thing. It's not changed that much over the past few weeks. So you could go to the previous week's team sheets and say that was the team last week. You know, I think it is a load of nonsense, but it's laughable coming away with these things. And even, you know, being paranoid about the times where the St Johnstone team trained. You know, maybe he told them to come in later so that we're maybe going to travel and have an overnight stay later on. Things like that happen. So I think he's reading into a load of nonsense there.
Yeah, this is what the Rangers manager thinks of the team they're facing tomorrow, St Johnstone.
Yeah, it was not the way we expected. At least it was planned from the beginning to go to Toronto, to have some times together with the group, to have a game with Benfica, which was a different one. But we changed it, reorganized the things, and had the chance to play with Morton, which for me it was okay, because they share the same formation as St Johnstone, and also they share more or less the same style of play. So it was interesting for us to train.
Okay, so they have the same formation, same style of play. I wouldn't view that as a slight on St Johnstone. I know Stephen McLean is talking about, you know, I think he get a little bit irked about it.
No.
You know, if they play the same way, it's all down to players. Have St Johnstone get better players than Morton? I would suggest to you, Ruffy. Yes.
Yeah, but I think he's obviously, in this one, he's talking about formation. If they're playing 3-5-2 or whatever, if you're better playing a team who plays that formation, and then you can defend against it or work with it. But again, who's to say that St Johnstone will play that formation on the night? Yeah. You know, you could change it whenever you like. So yeah, I agree with you. I think they've got to focus on their own players rather than the other players in the other team.
Yep, okay. To the game itself, because clearly Rangers have got to make sure that they can keep the momentum going after the good result against Hamilton Accies. They've got to win this game. Will they win this game at McDermott Park, Joe?
I don't think so. I think St Johnstone are playing really well. They're a strong side. It's always difficult, these games. Your Rangers St Johnstone games are always difficult. So I think the good thing from Pedro's point of view, he's keeping the momentum going. He's trying to keep the players playing, even though there was international duty. He was trying to arrange, I think a trip, over the other side of the waters would have took its toll on players. So he might be fortunate enough that he's keeping players here, keeping them involved in matches. And we'll just need to see how it goes, but I think it'll be a difficult game for him.
Okay, Joe thinks draw. Briefly, Ruffy?
I think draw as well. I think St Johnstone will put up a good show. We've saw Rangers at Firhill. I think they start very positive, and then if it doesn't happen, it's sort of a run out of ideas a wee bit.
Okay, coming up after the break, we're going to hear from Hearts boss Craig Levein. Thierry Henry, not a bad replacement for Ian Wright, Ruffy.
It took him a while to get started, but once he got started,
Yeah.
no, he was fantastic. I mean,
I think it actually might have taken him
Yeah.
maybe 10 games.
yeah, but if you get a chance to see him once he kicked in, just amazing. Yeah, amazing, some of the goals he scored.
Yeah.
What a team.
Well, not only that, Joe, but strangely enough, I think Arsene Wenger, looked at him and thought, "You're an out-and-out striker," and he was phenomenal. Whereas I think at Juventus he played out on the wing.
Out in the wing, he was the pace that he had. That was the key to him. He just drifted past players. A phenomenal striker.
Yep. Goals, if you want to stay up to date with the goals, especially Saturday, we're back to domestic football. STV2 at 2 o'clock. Join us if you can. We'll be looking ahead to all the football across all 4 divisions in Scotland. We'll also on Saturday be reflecting on St Johnstone against Rangers as well, and we'll hear from Pedro Caixinha and Tommy Wright and their thoughts on that match. So join us if you can, STV2. Of course, there's a number of games that we'll be looking forward to in the Premiership, as well as Celtic against Dundee. There's also the small matter of Hibs and Aberdeen locking horns, Ruffy. Hibs coming off the back of that good result against Celtic. They'll certainly feel confident. Aberdeen, with Adam Rooney only in the last 24 hours, mentioning that he feels as if they haven't hit top form yet still they're neck and neck with Celtic.
Yeah, and we're so early into the season that everybody's trying to predict who's going to be second, third and fourth. And for the Hibs fans who are predicting that Hibs are going to be in the top 3 at least, this is a game, that if they were to win it, you would be maybe saying, well, there's a chance. Obviously if they can get McGregor back, if they can get Fontaine back, get more of a settled side. But this is a massive game. It'll be a tremendous atmosphere. The stadium will be full. Aberdeen will bring their full quota of supporters down, and the place will be absolutely bouncing.
Yep, and of course Neil Lennon today, Joe, saying that there can be no excuses. They have to match the level that they produced against Celtic. Yeah,
they do. I was at the game, and I thought that they knew what they were coming up against for Celtic, playing at Celtic Park, and the way they keep the ball. They were patient. They worked hard. They were in their faces. They kept it tight at the back. But even when on the breakaways, young McGinn was fantastic that day. I thought he was man of the match, and definitely Neil see him as a key player. And I think he's a player that's playing with confidence, and he'll be one that's going to cause Aberdeen problems coming from midfield. I mean, he can score goals from anywhere, so he'll be a key player for Hibs from now on to the end of the season. Yeah, but he's also one of those young Scottish players that we hope is pushing to become a regular in the starting lineup for Scotland. There are a number of clubs that hopefully, Ruffy, just on that point, we're hoping a number of clubs start to produce young players, that can give the next Scotland manager food for thought. They can start to pick them. We had Barry Ferguson on the programme last night saying it's time to throw the youngsters in, time to build a new team. Yeah, well, this is I think the first protocol's got to be under 21s. I think they've had a couple of good results there. And you'll be looking at them, and that's the first people you assess, because obviously most of them, you don't see many young players jumping that under 21 right into the team. So I think it's a progression, and there are enough of them in there at the moment who are now getting first team football regular, whether it's here or down in England, and so the new manager will assess, but you're right, that I think obviously McGregor needs to get a shout now. They need to give them, and McGinn, there's a friendly coming up next month, and if the new manager thinks that there are other young boys out of that under 21 side should get a wee shout, fire them in. Yeah, absolutely. You're looking at Celtic providing the core of Scotland. You're looking towards Aberdeen's players to really make a push to say they deserve a starting place. Hibs are providing Scotland players, and then of course I think the key element could be the emergence of some Rangers players as well, because that was another element of what Gordon was unable to call on, was a clutch of Rangers players who could come into the Scotland squad as well. And let's not forget Tynecastle, Hearts, the former Scotland manager Craig Levein now in charge of Hearts, and he reckons he's got a number of young players that will emerge. We've got better quality players than we've had for a while, and I know other teams have as well, so if we show a little bit of patience, there's been a
a big shift in the last 4 or 5 years by all the clubs to try and improve the quality of the youth system, and Project Brave again I'm sure will help. So these things don't happen overnight, they don't, so I think everybody has to show a little bit of patience and just give it time and support. It's really important.
Yeah, I'd like to see clubs consistently give Scottish players the chance to play rather than bringing in cheaper foreign imports, Ruffy. You know, I've nothing against bringing in that sprinkling of quality, but I don't want to see us lose a generation of Scottish players again. They've got to play top flight football. Yeah,
they have, and once they get a chance and get a taste of the first team football, you would like to think that they would stay there. You know, and that is a sign of that they're getting more experience, more comfortable of playing with better players, and then you can just grow on. And I think Craig Lee makes a good point there. Sometimes you've just got to protect them a wee bit, but I would like to see them giving them more of a chance. If they think what they see is good enough in the other teams that they're playing in, let's see what they can do, and sometimes you might just get a surprise.
Yep, okay, Hearts up at Ross County on Saturday. We'll also bring you details of what's happening in the Championship, League 1 and League 2. Our game of the day, where our reporters will be out at in the Championship, happens to be Falkirk against Inverness Cally Thistle. Of course, the Highlands side haven't really got any great form. John Robertson's been under a wee bit of pressure, and he's up against a Falkirk side with 2 good wins with a 77-year-old interim manager in charge. I'm talking, of course, about Alex Smith. He's now taken a sidestep to allow the new manager, Paul Hartley, to get in there and try and work his magic for the Bairns and get them up the table. And, of course, the Falkirk boss has been speaking about being back in the top game again.
I think just understanding the job now and the pressure that managers are put under. A few bad results and there's mounting pressure on us, so I understand that. We love the job, we love football, and that's the reason we're here, but I've just missed being the day-to-day involvement of the players.
I thought he was unlucky at Dundee, Joe. It's nice to see him back.
Yeah, it is, and I'm sure he'll do well. I mean, Alex Smith's a good void for him, where he can get his ideas and keep them right. But Paul's an experienced manager, experienced player. He was unlucky at Dundee. Things just didn't go his way. I thought the players might just stop playing for him. He was bringing in some quality players, but they just kind of stopped playing for him. But I think he'll go there with a fresh impetus and work with the players that he's got and try and bring them through. Yeah, and of course he's the first one to admit that seems to be a confidence coming back to the team.
You've seen that over the last 2 games with them. They've got plenty of confidence, they've got plenty of quality in the squad. We've had a slow start to the season, but we can make up for that. There's a lot of games left, a lot of points to play for. So it's a challenge that we're all looking forward to.
Yeah, I watched them against Dunfermline. I went to that game last weekend, Ruffy. I was impressed with them. They play a nice style of football. Yeah, unfortunately, when you get into a slump of not winning games, sometimes it's really difficult to get yourself out of it. But obviously, they've now got a couple of wins, and I'm sure Paul will be hoping they can continue that, in the games. And there's nothing to say they won't go on a 3 or 4 run of winning games, but I'm sure Alex Smith will be sitting there with a cigar, just sort of let's see how you can get on here. Unfortunately, he's not that type of person, but I can imagine if you've won 2 games, you just shake it. If he doesn't win at the weekend, Alex just shakes his head and goes, honestly, experience, you can't buy it. Just one little footnote, a couple of things that caught my eye down south, Ruffy. Barca say they're going to come back in for Coutinho again. Of course, by January, if they do come back in, they might be playing in a league just with them and 2 other sides from that region. Yeah, that would be a tragedy, but I think if Liverpool aren't pushing for that top 4, then he will be out the door, because there's no point in holding on to somebody, and if he's not going to be any worthy in the Champions League. Yep, and the other story, Joe, just briefly, they've already got Harry Kane worth 200 million down south. He's a top player, and people are speculating the only way he'll stay at Tottenham now is if they match his ambition. I've never had Tottenham as one of those clubs at the moment that can take that next step. They've come close, they've got a good manager. Do you think they can do it?
I thought out of the past couple of seasons, I think this is their season that they might try and do something.
You think they'll pip Man United and Man City?
Yep.
Yeah?
I think they'll try and do it. I think they will. I think they'll take them all the way this season. I think.
And win it?
I still fancy Man U.
Yeah.
But,
So you
I
agree
think
with me
they'll
then? They won't do it.
But I think, no, they won't do it. But I'm sure they'll give everybody a good run for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we started off with so close but so far away, and Joe's just finished off with almost doing it but so far away. Thanks to Joe Miller for joining us on the programme. Join myself and Alan Rough tomorrow, Friday night. We'll look ahead to the weekend's football in greater detail. More interviews with managers and players, and Hugh McDonald of the Daily Mail will be joining us on the programme on STV2 from 7:30. From Ruffy, from Joe Miller and myself, Peter Martin, thanks for watching. The search starts now for a new Scotland manager. Good night.